Mordheim clash in the shadows. Chapter 1. The Skaven Hunt. The warband of Clan Scurvy moved through the labyrinthine sewers of Mordheim, their whiskers twitching at the scent of blood and decay. Led by Warlock Engineer Skritch Wyrmtongue, they were on the prowl for Warpstone and any treasures they could scavenge from the cursed city. The rank and file skittered behind their leader, eyes gleaming in the darkness. "Quiet, quiet, fools," Skritch hissed, his tail lashing with irritation. "We close now. I smell it. Blood flesh, sweet Warpstone." The Skaven warband crept up into the city streets, emerging into a dark alley. The moon hung high in the sky, casting an eerie glow over the broken rooftops and shattered walls. They were not alone in this desolate place, but what they sought was not merely Warpstone. There was another scent on the air, one that made even the ratmen uneasy. Chapter 2. The Wounded Predator. Further down the street, in the shadow of a crumbling tower, a figure lurked. Tall and gaunt, wrapped in a tattered cloak, the vampire count watched the night with cold, calculating eyes. His flesh was pale and gaunt, his once mighty armor now cracked and stained with blood. He had fought many battles in Mordheim, and his last encounter had left him weakened but not broken. The vampire count sensed the Skaven before he saw them, his supernatural senses picking up the skittering of their claws on stone, the scent of their foul bodies in the air. His lips curled back into a snarl, revealing fangs glistening with fresh blood. "More vermin," he hissed to himself, voice like the rustling of dry leaves. "They come to pick at the bones of this city, like the carrion they are." Chapter 3. The First Strike. The Skaven warband, emboldened by their numbers and the promise of a wounded prey, advanced silently. Skritch raised his clawed hand, signaling his warriors to spread out. They moved with the precision of predators, surrounding the tower where the vampire count waited. Yes, we take him now," Skritch chittered, his eyes gleaming with ambition. Weak he is, and alone." But the vampire count was far from helpless. As the first of the Skaven lunged forward, he moved with the speed of a shadow, his blade a blur in the moonlight. The unfortunate ratman was cleaved in two, its body hitting the ground with a sickening thud. The other Skaven hesitated, chittering in confusion. This was not how they had expected the fight to go. Skritch snarled, rallying his warriors. Fool, man-thing." Attack, he screeched, his warp blades crackling with energy. "He bleed, he die." Chapter 4. The Clash. The alley erupted into a frenzied melee. The Skaven swarmed forward, their blades flashing in the dim light. The vampire count moved with deadly grace, each strike of his sword sending a ratman sprawling in a spray of blood. He fought like a cornered beast, all ferocity and rage, yet there was a method to his madness. Skritch darted in, his warp blade striking like lightning. The vampire met his attack with a snarl, their weapons clashing with a burst of dark energy. For a moment they were locked in a deadly dance, neither gaining the upper hand. Around them, the battle raged on. The Skaven, despite their numbers, were struggling to overwhelm the undead lord. The vampire count, though wounded, was a force of nature, his strikes as precise as they were lethal. Yet even he could not be everywhere at once, and for every Skaven he slew, another took its place. Chapter 5. Stalemate in the Night. The fight dragged on, both sides relentless in their assault. The Skaven were a tide of fur and fangs, attacking with sheer numbers and ferocity. The vampire count was a whirlwind of death, his blade an extension of his will, cutting down anything that came too close. Yet the strain was beginning to show. The vampire's movements became slower, his strikes less forceful. He was bleeding from a dozen wounds, his unnatural strength waning. The Skaven, too, were beginning to falter. They had not expected such resistance, and the toll was being paid in blood and bodies. Skritch circled the vampire, his eyes narrowed. This was not going as he had planned. He had thought to take the vampire by surprise to overwhelm him with numbers. But now, the dawn was approaching, and they were at a standstill. Chapter 6: Retreat Before Dawn. As the first light of dawn crept over the horizon, both sides knew the battle was over. The vampire count hissed, retreating into the shadows, his form dissolving into mist. He had no desire to face the sun's wrath, not in his weakened state. He would live to fight another night, to take his vengeance on the Skaven and any who dared cross his path. Skritch snarled, his tail lashing in frustration. He wanted to pursue, to finish the fight, but he knew it was folly. The daylight was not his ally, and his warband had suffered enough losses. Back to tunnels, he ordered, his voice a venomous whisper. We live to fight another night. With a chorus of chittering, the Skaven retreated into the darkness, disappearing into the bowels of the city. The battle had ended in a stalemate, a bloody draw in the heart of Mordheim. Both predator and prey had survived, but neither had claimed victory.